I begin by sharing 3 stories in time of war. You may have heard of Edith Cavell. She was a nurse serving in various capacities in the early 20th century. By November 1914, she was working in Brussels. Edith helped nearly 200 Allied troops escape from then-occupied Belgium. She sheltered them in her house and supplied them with false papers, allowing them to make their way into the Netherlands, which was neutral during the war. As a nurse, Edith saved lives on both sides of the conflict. But eventually, German authorities discovered her activities. She was arrested, put on trial, convicted, and sentenced to death. The night before her execution, Edith forgave her killers. She told the Anglican chaplain in Brussels, "I must have no hatred or bitterness towards anyone." Sergeant Johnson Beharry. He was awarded the Victoria Cross in 2004. An armored vehicle driver, Beharry was responsible for transporting people through areas of conflict. And while performing his duties, his regiment was attacked, leaving multiple members of his convoy wounded. Beharry navigated his vehicle through enemy fire to evacuate them. And this didn't just happen once, it happened twice. On 2 separate occasions, he managed to get his crew to safety, and both times he put himself in harm's way for others' welfare. But Beharry's bravery didn't end there. Nightmares of his time in Iraq haunted the sergeant. It was crippling. So in February 2009, he spoke out on BBC News, criticizing the lack of support for ex-servicemen and women suffering from mental health problems, sharing his own personal struggle. Author Svetlana Broz has chronicled the Bosnian War. In her book, Good People in an Evil Time, she recounts the story of a factory manager from central Bosnia who told of a narrow escape from death. Croatian soldiers and paramilitary units had brought this man and his family and his neighbors, all of Muslim nationality, to a makeshift prison camp and lined them all up on the wall. They brought over a civilian, passerby, and chose him to choose who would die. But he refused to do it. He told them they should be ashamed. They killed him because of that. But it bought some time. And later, an exchange of prisoners allowed this group to go free. War is horrible. It causes people to do awful things, things that they might otherwise find morally reprehensible in other times and places. War gives license to aggression. It seeks domination and control, often at any cost. And there is nothing romantic about it. Any view from the sidelines is sanitized. It is cruel, terrifying, vile. War can bring out some of the worst in human nature, but as these stories demonstrate, it can also bring out some of the best. In today's gospel, Jesus tells his disciples that war offers an opportunity. Yes, an opportunity. In the face of bloodshed and human degradation, people can choose to speak of life or death. They can respond in kind or differently. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. But don't be deceived, Jesus says. Keep your head, don't panic. When your time comes, this will give you opportunity to testify. But this response should not be canned or mannered. There's no pre-prepared statement to read out. It must be particular to time and place. Jesus says, do nothing in advance. Instead, react to what's going on in that moment. The answer to violence and hate that counters the false hope that it pretends to offer, the answer is made in real time, acting against oppression and aggression in ways that proclaim meaningful and practical solutions. Now, these stories I began with demonstrate the possibility of choice, even in the most trying circumstances. And today, we remember that choice and give thanks for the testimony of those who, despite war's cruel and ugly face, acted with honor and demonstrated the value of life and goodwill. But we also remember those who've made different choices. And we weep for the devastation humans have inflicted in the past and today. And we pray for an end to it. These are trying times, times of war and uprisings, natural disasters and famine. Whether we are a pacifist or an agitator, a soldier or a civilian, someone watching from the sidelines or someone right in the middle of everything, none of us are untouched by human suffering. And our testimony must be the same, whatever circumstances we find ourselves in. For by our endurance, our meeting these moments with kindness and compassion, we will gain our souls.